So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Jan Hemming, Chair of the Oakcrest Neighborhood Council. And the first thing, Marguerite, that we'd like to do is recognize some of our board who is here. We've got, if we just stand up, Marguerite Henderson, Jennifer Evans, we've got Stuart Bevan, and we've got Eric Pavlis. Just stand up and let everybody recognize our wonderful board. We're glad to have you here. Just a few more quick announcements. Has anybody checked your mail? So we are so pleased that we've got a postcard that's dropped, hopefully to all of our residents in Oakcrest. And it encourages you to come to this meeting. And then it also encourages you to sign up for our newsletter, where you get a lot of information. And the other surprise that we have for you is this. I'll put this on the screen so the people at home can see this. This is our new lawn signs. So 2 shout outs. A shout out to Salt Lake City. Thank you, Salt Lake City. Let's clap for Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City, we applied for a micro grant and Salt Lake City gave us $1,000. So we used the money to do the postcard and the lawn sign. And another shout out to Tracy Hardy, who she and her husband, Bill, lived in the neighborhood for a long, long time and raised their children here. And she's our design creative person. And so we're so grateful, you know, that we're able to kind of get moving forward and getting the community more engaged with who we are. Without further ado, we want to get started and welcome our first guest, Megan Waters, who is the director of the community engagement for UTA. And just a few notes. Of course, you probably know, have heard about that UTA's got a new master plan that they've spent a very ambitious master plan through 2050. And it's going to start having an impact on the east side, which is sort of, you know, it's a good news for us because we don't see a lot of that up here. And you're going to share with us what we're going to see in the years ahead. And we'll turn everything over to you, Megan, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
We'll get rid of this.
We'll get in the box and then we'll start talking. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. So as Jan said, thank you for inviting us. My name is Megan Waters. I'm the Community Engagement Director. I'm here to help facilitate, but Alex Bain, who's with me, is going to do a lot of the talking too. He's our manager of strategic planning at UTA, so has a lot of the technical knowledge and strategy for our plans.
Sure.
Do you want to say anything else?
No, just glad to be here.
Okay, cool. Not sure. Just do that. Yeah, so we've got a couple of topics based on the feedback we received from the committee here. And so we'll be talking through a couple of items. Our first topic is the TechLink track study. So Alex is actually the project manager over that study. We don't have a ton of information about mobility hubs at the University of Utah, but we do know that they will be commencing their planning efforts for campus planning, which will include mobility hubs. You should see mailers about that as well. We think, we hope, and if you don't, there should be information online through the University of Utah as well, but we're working in close coordination with them. And then we'll go into the UTA long range transit plan, which includes some of those topics that were mentioned, specifically rapid bus, frequency, foothill. So we hope to cover it all. And if you have questions, we maybe can answer them, but if we can't, we'll take them back and we'll get back with you.
Okay, thanks, Megan.
You're welcome.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is the TechLink track study, which has been going on for a while. It's looking at a number of different things. It's looking at a new orange line that would run between Church Park up at the University of Utah, along 400 South through downtown Salt Lake City, and then run along North Temple and out to the airport. It also looks at engaging a new line on existing old track that UTA owns right away on. It starts around the ballpark station at 1300 South and cuts over to 400 West through the Granary District in that rapidly developing area, and then goes up to 400 South. And then we also are considering a potential switch of the blue line and green line northern terminus. So the green line currently ends at the airport and the blue line ends at Salt Lake Central. We're looking at the possibility of switching those. So the green line would end at Salt Lake Central and the blue line would go to the airport. Reason for that being that showed, at least in ridership modeling, that a continuous trip from Draper through downtown and out to the airport was good for ridership, and as well that in terms of who's using the system now, the green line, most of the ridership seems to work in two different segments. People either go from West Valley to downtown or downtown to the airport. They don't usually go all the way because we're also proposing in the future to have more bus service on the west side that goes up to the airport, which would give those people a more direct and faster connection than the light rail system.
Which airline
so for the west side, it's more about, and really the transit, most important part of transit and airport in general in terms of is workers, right? And most people, a lot of people who work at the airport live near the airport, so they live more towards the west side of the valley. So. Sure. Okay, whatever works for you, I'm happy to do either way. Just want to quickly point out on here that there is the gray areas that have highlighted, are highlighted, indicate where we would be potentially building new infrastructure. And that would be up at the university, out to Research Park, and then on the ballpark spur, American Spur that I discussed earlier, and then on 400 South between Main Street and Salt Lake Central. And
I put a bunch of slides in there, Alex, so there's some more detail on the website too, if you
yes.
go to techlinkstudy.com. So I know we're probably limited because I know you have multiple agenda items, but so I just put a few slides in there, but I don't know if you need to run through all of them in detail.
I'll go through them fairly quickly.
Okay.
This is just to let everybody know that this study is being funded through a RAISE grant and is a partnership with Salt Lake City RDA, the University of Utah, and we're also partners with UDOT and Wasatch Front Regional Council. So this just talks a little bit about the next steps in the study. We're doing evaluation of alternatives. We just wrapped up some online public input for the alternatives. And we'll be putting together a final report and then moving into environmental review and then final design and construction. One thing you may notice there's not currently dates on these because we don't have at this point funding associated with that. I will say that when we first had envisioned all this additional work on the light rail system, it was projected to go out to maybe 2040 or 2050. A big thing that's happened since then is the likelihood of the Olympic host city being Salt Lake City, and that may well help propel this work much faster, which we're excited about. Just to give a little bit of background, this is been sort of our starting point for the TechLink study has been our future light rail study, which preceded this. There's a lot of information online about that if you're interested in. And there's a number of different studies as well as work with Wasatch Front Regional Council, and these lines are on their regional transportation plan. So there's been a lot of background work leading up to that. We're excited to be where we are and hopefully have things move forward quickly. I'll just quickly outline the alternatives that we're looking at. This is the alternative that's come out of the Future of Light Rail study. And that has the red line split off at the ballpark station and go through the granary and then turn and head up to the U. And also has the new orange line would come in and go to Salt Lake Central and then continue on North Temple and out to the airport. Option number 2 is very similar, but has a section that's considered to be elevated. Reason for that being that the options would be either cross 500 and 600 south at grade or have an elevated structure and pedestrian walkway that goes over those roads. And then alternative 3 just goes right up 400 west and bypasses Salt Lake Central. And then this alternative 4 is not really comparing to the other 3, but it's just another option that we have been looking at in partnership with the U as part of some of their master planning efforts that they're doing. They're looking at considering realigning the red line to run south of the stadium rather than to the west and north as it does today. And does anyone have questions about that before I move on to the next topic? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've got, do you want one question or do you want to save it? Save it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can say
Sorry.
whichever.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. We don't have too many more slides, so I can always go back to slides if that's helpful. There's a question about mobility hubs. We were actually just in a meeting with someone from the transportation department at the University of Utah. And he indicated that folks in your neighborhood should be getting information from the U starting soon about their updates to their campus master plans. And he said that they would have additional information. We certainly have been talking and coordinating with them. We don't have anything solidified at this point, and part of this has been hinging on them, you know, getting all the pieces in order of where they think things will be in the future. So I would say more to come from the U on that. We are still looking at pursuing at this point Research Park and the Health Sciences area as potential hub locations. That might change. Research Park is likely to stay because in addition to the future orange line ending there, we also have the Davis Salt Lake City enhanced bus / BRT type project that will also end in Research Park. Now, let me talk a little bit about UTA's long-range transit plan, and I will start by saying, oh, this is it's easy also to just Google UTA long-range transit plan, it will come up, but you can also go to rideuta.com/LRTP, and on there is the full plan document. There's an interactive map that you can move around and click on. So if you have questions that I don't have all the projects memorized, where you're like, which street does that maybe run on? You can see where all at least the initial plans are. It will show what phase the project's being planned for, what mode it's proposed for, like bus or BRT or light rail or whatever. There's also a bunch of appendices, I should say, with information about our engagement that we did in the plan, our phase one project priorities and lots of other fun stuff. So, at least I think it's fun, but, so just, to go over quickly, just, we had 4 big strategies that we wanted to focus on in this plan. I'll also, add that this is the first time UTA has had a plan looking out 30 years of our own. So we have, prior to this, a lot of our long-range planning had happened primarily in coordination with our metropolitan planning organization partners. That's the Wasatch Front Regional Council and Mountain Land Association of Governments. One thing, though, is we realized that it was important for us to sort of have a comprehensive vision of everything where we thought transit might happen, given data analysis, public input, et cetera. And the other thing that's happened is the WFRC and MAG plans really focus on big capital projects, and we know a lot of transit isn't always capital, right? So a bus or has capital involved, but it's more about the service than it is about a project. So, so with that, we have sort of 4 big strategies, which is maintaining our system, making sure things are operational. You all may have seen some of these bus bridges for rail replacement that have happened recently. We actually are doing, if you heard stories about certain other cities, I don't call anybody out, but there's places where there've been significant rail service disruptions for, weeks or months at a time because they either didn't plan for or couldn't afford to maintain the system. So it's the less flashy part, but it's necessary to keep things running. Expanding frequent service. We heard a lot through public input, that both through this and really every time we talk to the public, right? We want service more frequently. So we are looking to expand frequent service across all our modes. So bus, light rail and front runner. We want to enhance the system to make it easier to use and more reliable. And as we always hear, if you turn on the news, how fast Utah is growing. So we were thinking a lot about how do we plan for new areas of growth and where existing areas are growing and we can provide better and more service. This is just a snapshot of the overall planned network and associated benefits and costs that are associated with it. So it's about really improving the amount of transit, getting people to more transit and better transit. So and this just talks about some of the phase 1 things that we're looking at, including front runner service, 15-minute in the peaks and 30 minutes off peaks. And then assuming we get all that done, also Sunday front runner service, extension from Provo down to Payson in Utah County, improvement of weekend and Sunday service across the whole system. That's something that we know that there's room for growth and improvement. People need to travel 7 days a week, not just during the weekdays. Upgraded frequent service corridors as well as projects. And we have a number of different areas you'll see on the map. They're identified as sort of these bluish blobs, for lack of a better word. And those are what we're calling innovative mobility zones. Right now, that generally consists of the on-demand service that runs in the west side of Salt Lake City right now, as well as Southwest Salt Lake County, Davis County, and Tooele County. And on-demand, for folks who may not be familiar with it, operates a little bit like a Lyft or Uber type thing. It's not a door-to-door, it's a corner-to-corner, but you can either call in or use an app to request a ride that they will use an algorithm and potentially pick up a couple other people along the way if there's someone on the way. But it's a really good service for either places where the land use makes it hard for traditional bus service to operate, or at times when it would be difficult to operate bus service in large areas. And so this it's been a good solution for that. And then, as I mentioned before, also included here is potentially all the TechLink tracks improvements.
And if you go to the website, you'll see that, like Alex mentioned, the interactive map. So you can actually go in and click on like the individual lines there and read more information about each mode and route.
Right, and you can also see all the things that I did not read that were on these slides. Yes, this also has a lot of words on it, and then I'm not gonna go through all of, but just wanted to share this. Because one of the things that we are trying to help folks better understand through this process is what our different services are and what's the difference between them. With the first three on the left, most people understand the light rail, the streetcar, the regional rail. But then we have rapid bus and enhanced bus and frequent bus. So what these rapid bus and enhanced bus are generally some sort of bus rapid transit, which is you do investments in the corridor to make the bus run faster, and you have amenities. So the big difference between the two would be with rapid bus, that's sort of a higher level of investment and may have dedicated right of way that only the bus operates in. It'll generally have large stations and off-board fare payment. Enhanced bus will be a little lower level of investment. Examples of projects, rapid bus would be similar to UVX that operates in Utah County with the large articulated buses. It has big stations and dedicated lanes. An enhanced bus project that we're working on right now is called the Davis Salt Lake City Community Connector. It may rename at some point, but it's had a lot of names. It's been talked about for a long time. We have more information about that project online, but that's a route that we run from Farmington Station up in Davis County down to downtown Salt Lake City, and then continue on to the University of Utah and Research Park. But that would be would not have exclusive lanes. It's a lower level of investment, but would have things, improved amenities, transit signal priority, and things to help the bus go faster. And then here's just a little bit more on rapid bus. One other thing, if I go back to this other slide here quickly, is as you get to the left, things become more permanent. As you go to the right, things are more flexible. So it's not to say one's better than the other, but for changing development, it's easier to say move a bus that we just put out with a few bus stops, or switch our innovative mobility zones when we put it rail into the ground. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. So the rapid bus, as I said, has more permanence. It's similar to the UVX service. We just opened OGX up in Ogden. And then coming soon is also, I think within the next 5 years, is going to be MDX, which is the Mid-Valley BRT that would operate, or rapid bus that operates in West Valley, Taylorsville, and Murray. We are looking at a number of other corridors across our system to determine, should we do this higher level investment or do something a little lower? And the other advantage of not only the cost savings, but we can sometimes do it much quicker. So and then I think we're getting close to
This was just some detail on frequency and east-west connections, because that was brought up as a topic of interest for the city. Okay.
Because it comes right through Yelpa.
Yeah.
It stops.
Okay.
Goes north.
I think a couple that might be of interest would be the 4, which operates on Foothill Drive and then goes on 400 South. That is one of the, when I talked about corridors, when we said where we might do additional investment, that's one that we're looking at to see how we could make the bus service better in that area. And then the 900 South route is 15-minute frequency that is in the list to potentially have corridor improvements to help it as well. And then there's a whole list of other routes, additional connections we have. As I mentioned, if we add a second line on between the U and downtown, that essentially gives you a train every 7.5 minutes instead of every 15. So there's a whole number of things on here. Another related thing, which maybe is in here, do we talk about the 5-year service plan?
Oh, I think there's one.
Yes. So another piece, if you're interested in what's gonna,
Okay, I think this is it.
so I think that's the last. We are updating our 5-year service plan, which will talk about things that are proposed over the next 5 years. That's due to come out to the public this summer for input. So look for that. So you'll be able to, we'll want to get your feedback on what's proposed in that plan. And this I already talked about. Okay. So Foothill is routes 4 and 21. Both operate on Foothill. And those are corridors, especially the 4, perhaps the 21 as well, that we are looking at for, in addition to them being 15-minute frequency, what other improvements should we make along the corridor? And this is a program that we are in the process of standing up right now that's looks at what kind of things can we do quickly and at low cost. And sometimes that's adjusting signal timing so the bus can communicate to the traffic signal so it doesn't get stuck at the light. There's also some other treatments we can do at intersections, something called a Q jump, which involves a stripe. Sometimes it's a right turn lane that the bus can also go into. If you've been to Seattle or Portland, places like that, a lot of places have them. And then there have been recent improvements to bus stops on Foothill, new shelters and that sort of thing. And I think we're at the end.
Yeah, we've got maybe 3 or 4 minutes.
Great.
Okay. So happy to take questions. Sorry for jumping the gun on questions, but happy to take them now. Yes. Yes.
Please.
So is the orange track line meant to replace red track line?
No. So the
It's in addition.
it would be in addition. So
Research park.
Where do they see that?
so yes. So the orange line is this dotted line and then it doesn't exist today. It would share track with the red line up until it gets to Mario Capecchi. Anyway, the red line would then turn north like it does today and go up to the medical center. The orange line would go south to Research Park. And one of the other, we would essentially need to have a different direction because we already don't have capacity to stack more trains at the end of line at the medical center. So yeah, so essentially, assuming the timing works out right, you'd have you'd have 7.5 minute frequency between the university and downtown. And then on North Temple to the airport.
One related question, what's the purpose of having the line deflect south there onto 4th South and then back up north instead of South Campus Drive? Now, seems that would be less convenient for students for taking
This?
tracks to campus.
Well, this is the existing, everything here exists.
Thought you said something about a corner on the other side.
Yeah, there's this alternative.
This is not how it currently is, though.
Right, right now, the red line goes around the stadium this way. One potential option is to have it go straight along the southern edge of the Rice-Eccles Stadium.
It's notable that there's nothing on the west side of 515. Okay, the huge population.
Well, this is just showing where the changes in new infrastructure are. We would have the same improvement in frequency you see here would exist here, all the way along North Temple and out to here. But-
And there are workers that fly downtown and the university and all of that, VA, et cetera, downtown. So I'm thinking that your vision needs to include some expansion on that side.
Well, we do have, so not light rail extension, but additional transit service on the west side. One project that's coming up soon is gonna be the 5600 West bus project in coordination with UDOT. There's a number of other projects. We are also partnering with Salt Lake City on their Reconnecting Communities grant. A challenge that we have with serving the west side is the amount of at-grade crossings. So that makes it difficult for us. We either have to make our buses go way out of the way or we won't, because the unreliability of freight stoppage, we can't have them cross at at-grade crossings. But we recognize the need for more transit on the west.
I would point out, I just read an article that said by 2050, 1 out of every 3 people. That is significant. And so we do need to think about transportation. Yeah. That's, I'm not hearing. And I want to, I would want to study the enhanced bus route, but we have 45,000 cars a day on Foothill Drive.
What do you know?
Mainly associated with food traffic. And so I think, and I'm sure that you've analyzed the amount of cars on roadways at times a day and how that plays into what form we would choose for public transportation, right?
Yes, and so we partner closely with UDOT. One thing that we certainly are looking at ways to do is find, this is something that we're partnering with to try to work through, because when you have limited space within the roadway, there's a question of, can you repurpose a lane for a bus, which will make transit more attractive and go more quickly. There's a counter argument that I'm not trying to make, but exists, that you need that space because there's so many cars.
Well, I'll tell you why you need to do that. Because all the traffic that won't fit on comes from the.
Sure,
It's long.
sure.
It's long. It backs up for like 6 to 8 blocks at a stop sign. I mean, that's pretty significant. It's gotten worse and worse.
Right.
And we do need to have some transit. We also have density of student housing going in at the U, and they need a way to buy food and take kids to daycare in school. So, and so we do need something to address.
Absolutely.
Agreed. So, yes, and I will say also that everything that we do, we are looking for input on. This is not our finished plan that goes to 2050. This is going to be updated over the next couple of years and will be formally updated again in 2027, but we'll be out over the next few years collecting input. Tell us where we missed something, tell us where we think we should get something. It's an ongoing process. So yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we've gotta keep moving. Sorry, we
No worries.
so
Thank
you.
you.
so appreciate you. Thank you. Yes. Let me see if I can figure this out here. Whoops, uh-oh. Thank you so much. So. No, I'm gonna, hopefully, can you do that? Sure. You know how to make that work over there? It should just pop open, right? Or why it's not opening. Oh, there we go.
Try that at least. Yeah, I think that'll work.
So, this is
Oh.
Noah Basket.
Yeah.
And while he's working on the technology, just a quick welcome to him. He is a brand new executive director of the Salt Lake Library System, and we were chatting. Uh-oh, wait,
Oh, is it over here?
wait, we had it,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Oh,
We had it.
yeah, it's closed. Yeah.
No. Not opening? Why is it not opening? Cause,
Well, I can go without slides
well,
too.
yeah, but I'm wondering why it's just not giving an open here. It was fine before.
Hmm,
I don't know why did not work? We know?
I have no idea. It looks like a computer. Try clicking on it maybe one more time.
Yeah.
Looks like maybe there's some internet issues.
Right here inside. We've got Zoom. We seem to be operating well. Got this, but we don't want that. Huh, I wonder what happened. How did that happen? Can we go out and come back in?
Yeah, that for whatever reason, your browser doesn't want to open anything. Doesn't look like it's opening anything. Can we close this browser? Is that
Yeah.
okay? And then come back to your email.
I opened it easily at home and I opened it here before we started.
Yeah, they were just there.
They were just there and then they dropped. I wonder why. Well, what would you recommend?
Well, I can just do a quick introduction. I can,
Okay, well, once again, the technology bug has bitten us. But you've got the man live and in person, and so we're so happy to welcome Noah Basket, who is the new executive director of the Salt Lake Public Library. I was chatting with him before the meeting and found out that he used to live in Salt Lake and used to pop over here to the Anderson Foothill Library. So he knows us well and knows the library well and knows Salt Lake well. Spent some time up in Washington, the state of Washington, and had a lot of executive positions with different organizations, I think in the Tacoma area. So we're very happy to have him here and also report that before the meeting. I was chatting with Paul, who is the manager here, and he said that Noah is a very personable person. So I think everyone's happy to have you here, Noah. And I'm sorry that
Ann.
we will get your presentation on our website.
Okay.
So
Well, it's not pulling up on my phone either, so it might be an issue with Canva, which is a service. But yeah, thank you all for having me. I'll try to remember what I had on my slides as best as I can. And maybe there's some questions that you all have related to the future direction of the library too. There you go. Yeah. Well, it's good to be with you all. What I would love to do is just talk a little bit about, I'll just share a little bit about my background and what I'm bringing to the library, kind of talk a little bit about some of the projects, as well as feedback we've gotten from the community most recently. and then a little bit about the future, where we're headed. Jan specifically asked if I have any updates related to this branch. And in fact, I do, so I will share a little bit there too. But yeah, a little bit about me. Noah Basket, grew up in Salt Lake City. My first house, my folks had a place, one of the little bungalows up towards the university, kind of by Judge. And then they moved out to Holiday. And I moved away up to Washington State to go to college, and I've been up there for 22 years. So grateful to be back in my hometown, my wife's hometown too. Most of my background is not in libraries, it's in intermediary community-based organizations, which basically means groups that exist to try to get public agencies, nonprofits, businesses, faith communities to work together to make their city better, to address the unmet needs that are in their city. So I did that at the local level, and then I worked for an international network called Leadership Foundations, working with 50 different cities throughout. So my background is in connecting, and what I was really drawn to in the mission and the future of the library is it really seeing itself as a connecting agent for the city of Salt Lake City, connecting people to books, but also a whole lot of other resources to one another, and increasingly to other opportunities too. And that's really the future of what we see of the future of the public library system, why we exist for the city. A couple stats that I'll share with you. We did some, this is before my time, but back in the fall of 2023, we did some surveys of the public at large, as well as patrons, people that had a library card. When you look at the city as a whole, 93% of Salt Lake City residents trust the public library system. It's a pretty remarkable number when you think about, there's not a lot of trust. It's a little bit hard to come by these days, right? Let alone trust in institutions. So nationally, that kind of mirrors national numbers. In terms of local institutions, libraries usually come just underneath, fire departments. So we are just a very trusted institution in the city, which allows us to do some things that other people can't.
Library system.
You know, we need to figure that one out. Yes, I think we got to come up with a plan. When you talk to patrons, so folks like you all that have a library card, 96% of patrons rank their experience of Salt Lake City public libraries as either great or excellent. So that's quite a reputation that we continue to want to hold up. 1 in 4 residents have a library. 3 in 4 residents have a library card, about 75% of our city, which is a very high number for a city of our size. And this is where my slides would help me, but I'll do my best. Over this last year, we had just over 1.1 million visits to one of our branches. Every single day, we see around 3,200 patron visits. And over the last 12 months, as a city increased by about 4,200 residents. In that same time period, the Salt Lake City Library had increased 7,500 patrons. So we're actually growing faster than the city, which is kind of strange. We do serve the county. If you have a county address, you can come get a city library card, but we're growing really fast, which is really exciting. But it's also, it presents some challenges that we need to be prepared for moving ahead. Recounting my slides, I was going to share with you all a little bit about an update, not specific to this branch, but to the library as a whole. You may know that we have a big construction project going on at the downtown branch with the roof, right? It's been closed for a bit. I've been told that 26 years ago, the very first day that that new main library opened, the roof leaked. So we've been faced with leaks from the very beginning. It's a beautiful building. It's an inspiring building, but it's got some unique architecture to it, which lends itself to some unique challenges. But there's some beautiful photos that we will share when we pass out are some renderings, I should say, artistic renderings of what it's going to look like. We got some feedback from the community that basically said, we like how that space is open to the public. how you get to do cool programming, things like yoga in the morning. But folks also said they would love if there was more space, basically to just hang out in the shade, to kind of grab a book and reflect. So we've created some really nice spaces, not just for programming the space, but for also for people to come and just enjoy what's really the best public view downtown. We are planning on opening up the branch to, or excuse me, the roof to the public in October-ish. So I'm saying ish, it might change a little bit. There's been a lot of surprises along the way with this project, but it's going to look incredible, and we're really excited to open it up to the public. One thing that is not included that we are really sad is the crescent wall. That is another $1.5 million project that we simply just don't have the funding for currently to be able to do the waterproofing that we need to make sure that it's safe for the public to be able to walk up that wall to make it up to the roof. So that's a work in progress. We know the public really likes that, but you are going to be able to take the elevator up inside to be able to get it. I was going to share just a couple. I was really floored by all of the things that the library does that you don't necessarily think of when you think of the Salt Lake City Public Library, but I was just going to share a couple of those things. You all probably know that in addition to the print materials, the physical print and audiovisual materials, we do have a really growing online catalog of e-materials, audiobooks, films. If anybody's used Canopy, that's a recent addition to our collection that has a ton of award-winning films that you can use for free. You can access for free as a library card member, as well as ebooks. We're making a big investment in that part of our collection next year to hopefully get those wait times on some of the bestsellers you've ever seen. There's some wait times for some of those audiobooks and ebooks, so we're working to get those wait times down. But in addition to that, the Wall Street Journal for free, the New York Times for free. I don't know if any of you all have have ever used an online or purchased software for learning a language, like what's the really big one? It's like Rosetta Stone, but you know those things get really expensive. We have free resources through our e-databases for that. There's a whole lot of free resources. And so it's a really valuable card when you have that library card. In addition, at our downtown branch, every single card holder has access to utilizing our 3D printing for free, one free print a month, vinyl printing, large scale printing for free at first, and then really reasonable cost after your first prints. So we're always working to add value to you all as Salt Lake residents because the library system is made for you. Hear Utah Music. Does anybody familiar with this? This is really cool. I wasn't either. So there is a free database, a streaming database of over 100 albums representing Utah artists that you can access for free through the Salt Lake City Library. If you have a card, you can download those. So it's like Spotify or one of those streaming services, but specifically for Utah artists. We actually have a panel of local professional artists that select those, and it's any genre under the sun: classical, punk rock, classic rock, you name it. So check that out if you want to check out some really cool local artists. You see the art around this room, and have probably been to a lot of, I believe this last year it was over 70 artist receptions that we've held. So we really want to be a strong contributor to a vibrant Salt Lake City art scene. So lots that we're doing at the library, and always working to see other ways that we can add value to Salt Lakers in what we provide. Okay, talking a little bit about the future, and I'll have to remember if I missed any other main points. Yeah, so we have some really beloved spaces. I should back up and mention we did see, obviously, like many other places, a big dip in people showing up to the library in person during COVID. This last year, we saw about I think it was a 12.5% increase in attendance across the system, but it was driven really by 3 branches: Marmalade, Anderson Foothill, and Maine. So you all know, being a part of this community, this is a very beloved branch, a very beloved building. It's one of our highest in terms of circulation of our collection. People utilize this space a lot. But we also know it's, you know, it's not perfect space. It's seeing its age a little bit. There's been some add-ons, right, over the years, so it's even hard to get into this space. And there's certainly more need in this community for more meeting spaces like this. And it's slowly sinking, right? That's the other challenge. So, oh yeah, so that might be news to you. It's safe, we're all safe, but it is slowly sinking because of that stream nearby and just some settling issues. So there's other needs across the system as well in terms of capital improvements, right? As well as a growing city, and us really beginning to think about where are the really underserved parts of the city that really could benefit from a library presence of some sort. So this is kind of this is the good news. This is the thing I get to celebrate and be excited about. So part of my job over the last 4 months has been working with Mayor Mendenhall's administration to get them on board for a library bond measure that will allow us to rebuild this branch completely, as well as some other major capital projects. So that we did receive support from the mayor for that project. The timing we are still working out, but it's looking like it would be on a ballot measure for fall of 2026. So we know that's a little ways out there. There's plenty of work that we have to do around engaging folks like you and other community members to learn a little bit more about what the best shape of a future library presence in this community looks like. So that's in planning phases. But I hope you're encouraged. The library really believes it's important to invest in this space, given how well it's used and given some of the real major needs of this building that there are, as well as we've just got some really big needs throughout the system as well. I think I hit my main points, but I really welcome any of your all's questions, and I'm happy to, go into any more detail on anything I brought up. Yes, sir.
I'm wondering.
Yeah, with more technology, how has that affected library attendance? Yeah, it's a good question. You might think, because it's so easy to go online and I would think this, it's easy to go online and there's much easier access to information than there used to be, right? What's surprising is that we have not seen a drop off in people coming into the library. We've actually seen an increase. It's different reasons, right? The library used to be Google, right? Your reference librarian at whatever branch, that was the only way you could get a hold of some information. All you had to do is just type it in Google. So that reason for the library doesn't really exist anymore, right? But there's a whole lot of other reasons. And what we are beginning to increasingly see is a place of people throughout the city, in all of our neighborhoods, want a physical space to be able to meet, to be able to gather, to be able to access information, but also to be able to connect with one another. Kind of that third space, like Starbucks, right? But that's free to the public, and that's owned by the public. So I don't know if that answers your question. Partially, maybe.
Well,
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and we're increasingly seeing a lot of people like you that really utilize library services, but it's a lot of the online services. Or that this is the reason they come to the library is for the community meeting that we. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What are the main reasons for rebuilding this entirely?
Well, I mean, part of that, part of what the shape of either rebuilding or renewing this facility, the answer to that is gonna be from the response we get from the community. There are some pretty significant issues with this building, largely the foundation. There's not a lot that we can do there. The other issue is piecing together the additions to this building that have been a little bit imperfect over time. There's a limited, right now, there's limited in terms of what we can do with square footage. And this, given the number of people that use this branch, there really is the need for more square footage. So I don't know if that answers your question, but part of the answer of what the shape of a renewed Anderson Foothill will be in the kind of feedback that we get from community and real intentional community engagement between now when we begin building. So. Other questions?
What else is on that big bond that you're gonna be looking at? So you probably got
Yeah.
other things besides, are there a few things ahead of us that you got to do first before you get into Anderson Foothill, or are we on a list with about 5 other places?
So Anderson Foothill is on the top of that list. And but there are some others. Yeah, one of the other major projects is Day Riverside, or serving the Rose Park area. It actually serves a huge geographic area. There's not a lot of other community resources out there. It's a very well-used branch as well, but it's beginning to see its age as a facility. And it's also on a really significant piece of land. The county owns a bit of that land. So we are talking with folks in that community around, as we develop it, could it help to also, could it be multi-purpose? Could there be other community needs that are met through a multi-purpose facility? So that's a big one. Ballpark is another one. It's also a community that needs some love. We've talked with Mary Mendenhall quite a bit about this. She's really eager for a library presence there. And so that's one of the other projects. Even though Maine is only 26 years old, it is beginning to see its age in some places as well. So there are some capital needs there, but but that's a lower priority than those three: Ballpark, Day Riverside, Anderson Foothill. Yes, sir.
They're closed 4 elementary schools.
Hmm.
Those are places where
That's a good question. So this is a little bit, so you may or may not know that the Salt Lake City Public Library System is not a city department. So when we have to work with the city, and we're really dependent on city council for approving our budget, but we are not a city department. And then we're separate from the school district as well. We are having I will say we are having conversations with the school district around some places of partnership. It's not specific to buildings. And the reality is, because for every time there is a new building that the library either occupies or builds, that's a really significant expense. And we're trying to be mindful of taxpayer dollars. We're trying to be thoughtful about where there is a library presence needed and where there isn't. So we don't have plans to occupy those buildings. I think that's a great suggestion. I'm certainly, I'm not gonna dismiss it out of hand, and we can certainly, it's something we can look at for sure. Yeah, I will mention though, one of the conversations we are actively having with the superintendent though is around the trend we're seeing nationally, but including right here in Salt Lake City, around decreases in 3rd grade reading levels. You may know that if you your 3rd grade reading level, for whatever reason, is a really good indicator of how academically successful you'll be later in life. If you'll graduate high school, whether or not you'll go on to post-secondary. So that is a place where the library is really well positioned to make a really big impact. So I don't quite know what the shape of that is going to be, whether that is library staff coming in. We do already do a lot of literacy training to educators as well as preschools and daycares. But we are talking about ways that we can be more proactive in lending our skill to help up those reading levels across the district. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes, I've heard really great things, and when I visited the Mill Creek branch, I think Mill Creek is county, so that is different from the city. But I think it's a great combination as well, and it's why I think whenever we think about a new facility, I really am interested in thinking about mixed use, like a combination like you're talking about. I think you're right. I think there's a real great opportunity. Yeah,
What does, because I have some.
you can utilize it. That's right.
Can't find a book, right, the wait list is too long here, just go to the Phoenix or Denver library, get it.
Yep.
And this time,
Because it's different. And I would use their model, that actually their model, that they have built all over. I just started to see here, just 33rd, Marmalade, all of the. Fine, library, senior center, the small cafe, and they also in an area that's adjacent. So how lovely would that be, adjacent to Sunnyside Park? Unfortunately, the UGB has an convention. And by the way, the auto master plans, that's why we have them.
Yeah, and the Salt Lake City Public Library has actually been very on the vanguard in terms of how to do community development collaboratively. The example, we did have the first coffee shop library. I think regionally, we have that down at Marmalade as well. And so it is something, yeah, in terms of mixed use. Viridian is beautiful. Yeah.
And our city deserves
Hmm.
so partner with Salt Lake County, we have gotten on their master plan. More funds for things like this.
Well, I did bring a little souvenir if you'd like one. This is something I forgot to mention, but it is every year we do the Super Summer Challenge. It's a way to combat the summer slide, which if you don't know, it's if kids aren't reading in the summer, it's really, really likely that what they have learned over the last year, up to 20% of it can be lost over the summer. So kids need to read. We're doing some really cool stuff with the Super Summer Challenge. Where kids will get, or kids and adults, I should say, anybody can participate in this challenge. If you read up to a certain number of times every single month, you can get a prize halfway through the summer, and then you can get a prize at the end of the summer. So sign up beginning June 1st. I got some magnets you can stick on your fridge right over there. And yeah, we do a theme every year. This year, it's kind of a summer camp theme. So it's a lot of fun. So if you've got kids or yourself, sign up for the challenge. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So nice to have you here.
Thanks.
Hope you come back. Thank you. We are going to now hear from our government representatives. We've got Detective Fallows, I think, up there. Can you open up and let's see. We have you, Detective Fallows. Did we lose you? Oh, there you are. Can we make you bigger? Wait a second. Do you know how to do this? Okay. Our tech expert.
No problem.
Here we go.
Oh, we might have to.
He needs to
unmute
unmute
him.
himself.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
He can't. Can we go to security or
Maybe.
security? Unmute.
There we go. Can you unmute yourself now?
Yes,
Okay, great. All right.
alrighty, okay. Good to be here with everybody tonight. I'm Detective Sam Fallows with the Police Department. I'm your community liaison. And so let me pull up the crime stats for the month. Just gonna go over a few crime stats and talk about a couple of updates, and then if anybody has any questions, just let me know. So by way of updates, just wanted to remind everybody with like the warmer weather coming up to just make sure you have your lights on at night. We've had a couple of reports of like just some suspicious activity with people walking through the neighborhoods. I think I had one lady call me recently saying that someone had come into her backyard because her gate was unlocked and open. So just make sure you're locking everything up, putting things away at night, turning on your lights at night. There's going to be a lot more people out and about during the summertime, especially, and that includes both just everyday average citizens and criminals. So just make sure you take those steps necessary to try and prevent becoming a victim from a theft and those things. And also specific to some of the Bonneville Elementary incidents that we've been having, where kids, teenage aged, are gathering Friday, Saturday nights, throwing water balloons, things like that at cars. If you start to see a group of teens and they're gathering right at Bonneville Elementary and it clearly looks like they're up to no good, just try and call that in sooner than later so that we can get ahead of that for the summertime. And Jan and I and the school and a bunch of other people have been having regular meetings on it. So we're working on different things. But just wanted to also just put it out there to the community that if you are seeing like, it's not a big deal to see a group of teens, but what's the big deal is if you see them start specifically at Bonneville Elementary and specifically start like, grabbing things from the bushes, things like that. That's really what we're looking for. So if you see that, just call it an emergency so that we can get that call in the queue so we can respond out and kind of deal with that as soon as we can. Because we do get busy in the summertime, obviously, and so we don't always have, we're not always able to respond right away to those types of calls. So we have to respond to the priority calls first. So just make sure that if you're seeing that, to report that to us. And then same thing with like anything else suspicious in your neighborhood. If you're up late at night, you see someone walking through with like a Sawzall, or they're looking into cars or something like that, just call that in right away. Don't hesitate, and don't worry that you're going to be taking us away from something, because you won't be. We prioritize all of our calls. Everything's based on the information we get, and so we're going to go to a domestic violence call or an assault or something like that before we go to a suspicious circumstance. So you're not going to take us away from anything. And then it helps me as your community liaison. I've kind of talked about this in the past, but it helps me when you call in where I can pull stats and say, hey, we've had this issue with like bike theft, or we've had this issue with catalytic converter getting stolen, or anything else, and I can help set up operations with like our specialty units and things like that. But I've got to have some numbers to help back up what I need, what I'm asking for. So help me to help you. So then just diving in for the crime stats, we actually only had one reported crime in the month of April. It was an aggravated assault. So an aggravated assault is an assault that could or did cause serious bodily injury. And really what it was I looked up the case because I was a little concerned because we don't see those hardly at all up in this area. And what it was actually involving an officer and like a laser type incident where people were, and we don't know who the suspect was, but someone was trying to shine lasers into our officer's eyes. So obviously concerning, but like for the neighborhood itself, by way of like what you all need to be concerned about, not really concerning for the neighborhood. So that was the only crime reported in April. We're looking pretty good. Everything's down from like, for the most part, let's see. From last year, we're down significantly, but we've seen a really good trend going down over the last 5 years. Especially from, you know, we went up a little bit in 2021, but coming down over the last 2 years. And from 2023, we actually saw quite a big spike in Yellowcrest, but so 2023 from January to, so year to date, basically January to April 30th, we had 27 crimes reported. Whereas this year, 2024, that number is at 7. So we're seeing a nice steady decline, which is great. And that's what we want to see. But if if you're seeing anything suspicious, like I said, call it in. If you're a victim of a crime, if you're a victim of something that's like a theft, something simple, where there's really no suspect information, there's really not a lot to go on. I would still ask that you report that. Just, you can do it online on our slcpd.com, and you can file an online report and get it reported that way, because it still will help me to help the neighborhood and to see what's going on in the area. So does anybody have any questions for me or any follow-up that I can do for you? Nothing? You gonna let me off easy tonight?
There's a car that keeps relocating in the area. I'm trying to repeat the question so he can hear it.
So I want to know what to do.
He wants to know what to do about it.
There's a car that keeps relocating in the area. Can you give me more?
Yes.
Like, what does that mean?
It's tagged, but it moved. And
So you mean like the city tagged it and then they moved it in the time frame that they're supposed to?
Is what tagged, moved, keeps coming back, right?
Yeah, so I would just, really, that's a parking enforcement issue with our compliance division. Are they doing anything, like, do they live in the area, do you know, or
They
is
live
it someone?
They live in the area.
Sorry.
Did you hear that? It's got a flat tire.
No,
He's got a flat tire.
okay. Yeah, so I mean, there's two sides to it. If they live in the area, but they're following the laws, there's really not a ton we can do, but civil enforcement can look into that as well. You can, for like, a vehicle that's broken down, they can look into that, and compliance can also, take care of that. So if you, let me look up, if you go to the city's website, they have, you can contact compliance through that and make a report to them. I think you can actually do it through the SLC mobile app, actually. But you can make a report to civil enforcement as well for like a broken down vehicle that's in the area that needs to be, and they'll tag it and stuff. But as long as they're within the law, there's not a ton we can do per se, as the police department at least, or compliance, but civil enforcement should be able to maybe do a little bit more from like a broken down vehicle standpoint.
And if there are no more questions, Detective Fallows, we're gonna thank you for all your
All right.
service. Thanks for the meeting. We had a great meeting with Detective Fallows and some of the issues we've been having around Bonneville Elementary, and the police are going to be very active in terms of, they've already had a camera at the school. They may bring the camera back. And they've been enormously helpful to our community. Thank you, Detective Fallows.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I know. Yeah, I live right across the street from the school. Hannah, do you want to step up? And then I don't know what kind of screen we want for you in the back, but
I'll share my slides. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah from the mayor's office. I have some slides today. Councilmember Dugan is out of town. He was unable to be here, but I do have a couple of updates from him. So I'll start with that. He wanted to let everyone know that discussion on the downtown entertainment district has been underway. I'm sure a lot of you have been following that issue. This past Tuesday, the council meeting is when the discussion started. So he would encourage all of you to watch that recording of that meeting if you want to. Okay, great. Yeah, that's perfect. Yes, sorry. On Tuesday. But obviously there's a lot left to discuss there. There's a lot of moving pieces. So there will be more information forthcoming. The council will be accepting public comment on May 21st at that meeting. So if you're interested in that downtown entertainment discussion, be sure to engage on the issue and share your comments. He also wanted to let everyone know that budget season is now underway, which I have a couple of slides about, so I'll save that. And then he also has a number of materials over here specifically on traffic calming. There's a big flyer on the table just about different traffic calming strategies and just information about the benefits of driving slow, which I'm sure none of you or all of you already know those benefits. But there's also some really awesome bumper magnets. They're not stickers, they're magnets that tell whoever's behind you to drive slower. So feel free to take one for your car, or I was gonna say, try and slap it on someone else's car as they're driving past. Just kidding, don't do that. But cool resources from Councilmember Dugan. So I will go ahead and start with my update now. Let's see. So the mayor presented her budget proposal this past Tuesday to the city council. This is just a couple of highlights, but please feel free to read the entire speech. There's a very long link here, but I did share these slides with Jan so you can access them on the website and just click the link. I know that URL is way too crazy to actually type out. Just a couple of highlights. The mayor proposed dedicating 2.59 million for affordable housing. That is in addition to the funding that was already approved by the RDA last month, which is great. Obviously continuing to prioritize downtown as an asset for the whole city, with spaces to spend time and recreate and enjoy, hopefully more green space on the Green Loop and the Main Street pedestrian promenade. She is hoping to double the size of Salt Lake City's rapid intervention team. Those are the folks who are on the street day to day, engaging with unsheltered folks, trying to encourage them to enter the shelter, or at least have access to the bare minimum resources that they need. The mayor believes in this type of approach that really involves building trust with those folks. So sometimes people are, the rapid intervention team is engaging with folks over 3 weeks, trying to build that trust, really trying to encourage them to enter the shelter system that we have. So having more people to do that on the ground work will be incredibly helpful in managing the homelessness situation throughout the city. She also wants to dedicate an additional $100,000 to the ACE Fund, Arts, Culture, and Events. Right now, that bucket of money is $250,000, and there is a huge amount of demand for that every year. I think the demand is like $500,000. So having an additional $100,000 in that bucket would be awesome. That supports big and small events throughout the city, from Pride all the way down to small little ice cream socials. And yeah.
I encourage, Walton, if all of you come to the 4th of July event, I encourage the person who sponsors that to go ahead and ask for some money, and we got some for the 4th of July. So was it in July? Just to help fund some of, it's a very expensive event. She privately puts that on.
Yeah.
That's out of her own pocket.
It was originally created to cover the cost of permit fees for events throughout the city, but now has expanded to basically anything. If it's
I think she got 1,000, but 1,000's better than nothing.
totally, yeah. And so hopefully this additional money will mean more events can get funded, or people can get more money, the money that they actually asked for. This also includes expanding funding for UTA On Demand, which is specifically on the west side of the city. It's almost operates like a rideshare service like Uber or Lyft, and functions as kind of that first mile, last mile piece of getting west side residents connected to the closest transit stop, or just where they need to go if the current transit system doesn't necessarily fit their needs. And that also means continuing funding the free bus passes for Salt Lake City students, guardians, and educators, which is awesome. I also wanted to mention, I know a lot of you participated in the Sunnyside baseball discussion, attended those city council meetings, submitted comments. A lot of you submitted feedback, which was great. And one of the pieces of feedback that came up from that discussion came from youth baseball organizations, including the Foothill Youth Baseball Association. Some of you might know August, who runs that organization. He's wonderful and very passionate about it. And he, as a result of those baseball themed discussions, he took it as you know, I have these high fees from the city to reserve these fields for my youth that want to participate, and I don't want to pass those costs. Thank you. I don't want to pass those costs on to the parents. Youth sports should be accessible and affordable, and should be throughout the city. And so the mayor was able to work in a $57,000 ongoing annual piece of her budget to reduce rental fees for youth baseball organizations, which is great. Yes, so it was cool that obviously not the exact issue that was talked about, but a piece that bubbled up during those conversations is now being addressed in the budget, which is great. Yes. Yeah, I want to be fast because we got about 10 minutes. So some upcoming important dates to engage in the budget process. For the rest of May and into June, the city council will be reviewing the budget, discussing, advocating for their desires, and fine tuning anything that the mayor has proposed. And so that includes hopefully hearing from you all. So there will be the first public hearing on May 21st, the second public hearing on June 4th, and an ongoing opportunity to submit comments online, by email, or by phone. Feel free to take a picture here. This link is also great that the city council office put together. Great. It's really helpful to just learn more about the city budget process as a whole. Councilmember Dugan did say that his priorities when it comes to the budget are public safety, street repairs and maintenance, and addressing deferred maintenance in parks. So if you agree with that, tell him. If you don't agree, tell him. Let's see. Next, there is a District 6 vacancy on the Peanut Board. Peanut stands for Parks, Natural Lands, Urban Forestry, and Trails. So if any of you are passionate about that, or maybe know someone who would be a good fit for that board specifically advises the mayor and city council on issues relating to parks, natural lands, and all those things. So there is a QR code that you can scan to apply. I also have hard copy flyers over here. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can also reach out to Ashlyn Larson. I know that's really small on the screen, but her contact information is on the flyer over here. Next, an exciting program that the mayor funded in last year's budget that is now coming to fruition. There is a landscaping equipment exchange program where you can turn in your gas-powered mower, trimmer, or leaf blower and receive a voucher. Perfect. You can receive a voucher to then buy an electric one, which is way better for the air quality. Using a gas-powered mower for an hour is the equivalent of driving 60 miles in your car. So if you are interested, the application window closes on Sunday at midnight. So you have 3 more days to submit your application. It's a lottery system this year to try and be more equitable. In previous years, the applications would open up and 10 minutes later, they would all be gone. So this is hopefully a bit more equitable because we left it open for a week so people could have plenty of time to apply. And then we will just randomly select the winners, if you will. There might be allocations per district. I'm actually not sure, but it's, yeah, hopefully more equitable. So if you have any questions, let me know. You can also email cleanairslc@slcgov.com. Lastly, I have office hours coming up in the month of June. I'll be at Thule and 15th and 15th from 2 to 4 p.m. on Monday, June 10th. Feel free to stop by and have a chat, or tell your neighbors if they have any questions or concerns about the city to come talk to me. That's all. There's my contact information. Does anyone have questions for me? Yeah. Sure. I am happy to pass that feedback on to the mayor. I will also be honest that I just got back from Europe Tuesday night and I'm still catching up on everything that I missed.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to pass that feedback on and do a bit more research and give you a response, if that's okay. Any other questions for me? Great, thanks everyone.
So in closing oh no, don't do that.
Oh, it's still there. There you go.
And where
I guess
is,
there's not any questions online.
so, okay. So please stop recording.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you. We need to get all the chairs into the back closet. And we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Great, thanks.